Okay, so today I'm going to be watching something random on Netflix. I can't even decide. I kind of gave up on the whole alphabetical thing because there's too many things I feel like I have to skip through, whether it be, whatever. It'll be some kind of a foreign movie or something else I don't want to watch. So I'll just choose something kind of random, but what I'm also doing is I'm using a lavalier mic now finally, but what I think I already notice is it's maybe picking up the sound of the car too much. Right, so my voice might be better, but it's maybe too sensitive. So all I needed to get it to work with this is just a little adapter from my phone, from my iPhone. Whereas before I was trying to use it with my Sony recorder. That somehow that one doesn't work with anything. Like I tried a number of different ones, and it didn't work. So we'll see if this works. It seemed to work pretty well when I was stopped. I sort of practiced it, tested it before, but now I'm noticing when I look at the volume, like it shows you a little bar to show the volume of the recording, it's just constantly peaking out, so probably it means that this is picking up the car sound way too much, but I'm wearing it like on my shirt too, and so that would kind of tell you that, I don't know, it's just kind of dumb, but there's nothing you can do about it because it's like, I don't know why it's so hard for me to decide what to watch, and then when I start driving it becomes impossible because then I don't know, it's just got to be something random that I feel like doing. So I'll just make it totally random but sort of on a whim. Because when I've been doing those, like I watched two things and they already pissed me off. Hashtag Alive wasn't terrible, but it's not really what I want to watch, and it was also foreign, and it was like kind of badly dubbed over, and then obviously the 3-minute hug was really, really fucking bad. If it was 3 minutes, I guess I wouldn't have minded it as much. So yeah, I think what you might find is that maybe I'll stop in a little bit, and then I'll actually decide what to watch, and then I'll actually I'll listen back to this. That's what I didn't think of. I sort of tested it, but then I didn't see whether the car sound will fuck it up. Right, so I think it's picking up the car sound super loud, and then even though my voice, it's on my shirt and it's closer to me, I think it might still be, it'll be way too loud for me as well. So maybe I don't have to project as much. I can just talk kind of more normally. So I'll try to talk like this, and so it'll be more sensitive and it'll kind of work. But no, I always see these little videos of people in their car, and I have to wonder how they're able to do it so well. Right, where the car sound is blocked out, you gotta get some special thing. This is like a professional studio mic too, right? Like one that you can kind of conceal. So it's Powered to Wise is the name of it. So it's kind of good for that kind of thing. Like you're shooting a short film or something, and then you get to you get to let them wear it and you can't see it and everything like that. So yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble deciding what to watch here, so maybe I'm doing this more so just to test this, and then we'll see how multi-layered these episodes are, though. This is what it's meant to be like. It's very free form, where you're watching Skibbity Toilet one moment. Like, yeah, maybe I should just do that instead. I watch like up to episode 8, and I was trying to give super deep analysis and actually take it super seriously, but I don't know, like I kept trying to go back and recap, like, okay, let's recap the first 7 episodes, and then we'll watch from then on. That's something we haven't seen, but then I would get exhausted by just recapping it, or sick of it just by recapping it. I was kind of all flushed out of energy, so I figured, okay, we'll save it for another time. But no, I should actually watch something on here. I can't decide what, so there should be a randomizer, or again, there should even be the alphabetical sorting, which it apparently doesn't seem to have. Right, so you're in a position where you're basically able to I don't know. So now we'd have to come up with some sort of setting, which I don't know how to do. That would. I don't think I've tried it like this before, though. I don't think I had a way of really getting this thing to work. It wouldn't work with the Sony recorder at all, right? Which again, that's kind of putting that to shame. I don't even know exactly what model or something, but it's relatively a decent one. So it's like, why would you buy a recorder that's specifically made just for that one purpose, and it's not as good or functional with microphones, etc., than a phone that's made for various purposes, like you can play games on it, you can watch stuff, you can, text and email and call and all these other things. So why would you use it as a flashlight? You buy a dedicated recorder just for that purpose, and it's not as good at recording as the one thing it does than a phone is at doing that in addition to various things. So I have to wonder about that. So yeah, we'll go here. These games kind of crack me up. We got Slither.io and we got GTA San Andreas, which have nothing to do with Netflix at all, so I don't get what that means. Like, or it even says mobile games, so like, imagine playing GTA San Andreas on mobile. That would be kind of shitty in itself. Like, why ruin one of the best games? It's amazing how many things they stripped out of those older games for the new ones. Like, well, you can't even crouch. GTA 5 doesn't even have a crouch button. Imagine that. Talk about progressive mindsets. But even beyond that, it's like, you have, all the fitness sort of mechanics and things like that, working out, little things like that, the hot rods, things that some things don't maybe serve much of a purpose, but there were just more weapons, more wild, crazy stuff like that, little stealth system which goes along with being able to crouch. Yeah, you can kind of hunch your back over a little bit, and that's the stealth mechanic. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, and if they have a fat protagonist, then how are you going to use that mechanic anyway? Like, in this era, if everybody has to be, represented somehow. I've always been in favor of that, though. In a character creator, they always have, like, the slim body type only, right, in a lot of games, RPGs, etc. Like, what if I want my character to be a little bit bigger, even if it's not in the greatest way? It's like, that is a legitimate thing. So you see, like, too much of a limited body shape scope. Somebody, you could make your character really skinny or really chubby or whatever, and that's just part of the lore. Like, in the universe, they're not all going to look the same. You could say, because it's like you're an adventurer, so you get a lot of exercise, so you wouldn't be like that. But, or yeah, that's like a good analysis point on, like, mages and stuff too. They wear like this skimpy clothing. You're like, that's, it's dress or something, robes, right? But what does that have to do with like fighting in battles and stuff? It's like, that might somehow, have magical properties, but, you know what I mean? Like a female mage sorceress will be fucking wearing like very skimpy clothing. Is that really necessary? Like, you don't want heavy armor to slow you down, but do you really have to wear exactly that kind of thing? It makes more sense even for like a ranger assassin type, because then you really don't want to be slowed down. So yeah, being next to naked at least makes sense for that. But for a mage, I don't really fully get it. You want to be mobile, but you're also relying on your spell, so it shouldn't really matter that much. That's one thing I didn't like about the final fight in like Return of the King with the, Aragorn and Gandalf and everybody. Regardless, I don't even know exactly how it's written in the books, but if you were to portray that, like, Gandalf should be casting spells like crazy and funneling them in a certain direction, and Legolas should be picking them off. He creates like some wall of ice barrier that they have to, funnel into, and then Legolas is picking them off, and then Aragorn's kind of doing what he's doing. It was like just kind of awkward. Everybody's just using a sword, and Legolas is using a bow at close range, and Gandalf is using a sword. Like, yes, you could say they're on their last leg, and I would have shown that in a much more exciting way, unless I'm forgetting. But like, funnel them in. It's kind of like how they showed in Full Metal Alchemist. Like, Ed will put up a wall, and then Roy will burn everything in front of the wall because they can't escape. And like, they kind of use their ability strategically in teamwork, right, where we'll create like this barrier and then we'll blow it up or something like that. Right, so yeah, there's a lot of analogies you can draw between Harry Potter and Full Metal Alchemist. So you'd almost think that Full Metal Alchemist copied Harry Potter, which in some ways, no doubt, in fact, the premise seems really on the nose. The one thing that I almost thought it was about when I was watching is like, oh, it's an analogy to the U.S. and the Middle East, like the Ishbal invasion and stuff, but it's really more about World War II and like the Holocaust and stuff like that is kind of more what it was alluding to. And a lot of obviously the time period and even the Führer King Bradley, like that title is specifically from Germany, so obviously it's more of an allusion to that. But no, I looked at Ishbal almost like, they always say it differently, like Ishbal, like with the B-A-L, or Ishbal, V-A-L. The way some characters say it sounds one way, or the way it's translated in subtitles and stuff. Right, it's sort of interchangeable, I guess. So yeah, maybe I'll pick something here. What I especially want to do is I want to, I don't know, I really don't have a fixed thing, but Netflix has so many things on there. I really don't get why this is so hard for me to do. I don't mind watching more mainstream stuff now, especially if this mic is actually good. That's like my only requirement that I was holding off, but... Okay, so now I'm testing it on like a further angle. So we'll see, but it picks up all the background too much too. Let me try once more, but it's kind of being still too loud. Like certain parts will get cut off, maybe if I talk too loudly. Okay, so I think I have to keep my voice down a little bit for this to work better. And of course it does pick up the car sounds quite a bit, but this might be the best. So I am actually going to watch something big now, and it's going to be Stranger Things, so I figure I may as well do that. That's kind of what I mean, that there's a lot of big name things that I haven't watched, and so this is pretty well suited for it. So I have the mic a lot further away now, and I'm also talking a lot quieter, so I guess that's really what you might have to do. So this is more like a testing, maybe it'll be all fucked up. Certain parts of it seemed like it was getting cut off, so we'll start in a second here, and I'll use like my character points and a whole bunch of other things that are fun little gimmicks that I do when I'm watching something. Like, if a character does something really good, I'll give them +1. If they do something really stupid, I'll give them -1. Or even like by their own criteria, so it gets a little complicated. Like, you'll say, oh, this character is a good guy and he did something evil, but like it's based on their intention, whatever their intent is to do, right? So like yOuTuBe would still get a lot of plus character points because I'm not judging it like, oh, whether I agree with him or not, or whether he's a villain or not, but I'm judging it on whether he's being effective at what he's trying to do, basically his measure and what he's up to. So things like that enter into it, and there's even like permadeath conditions, like what I did with The Sopranos, and the way that I did that was like, I said that, if the main character gets saved by plot armor 3 times, I stop watching, which certainly happened, or if something else like that happens, what else? If I get like 3 F-grade episodes in the whole series, or just in a season, probably in a series, I said the whole thing, because that's pretty rare that something gets an F. There's only like one F episode that I got, but I guess that was only like 13 episodes, so it doesn't mean I want the whole thing, but I'm always giving it a shot. I'm trying to test this particular mic that seems to be way out of this world sensitive. Just kind of trying to not project my voice enough, but it feels like because it's so loud, it's almost peaking and breaking, and so then it gets to like, when you're driving, the audio bar becomes completely nonsensical because you can't even judge. It's just maxed out all the time, so I don't know what that means. So we're going to start episode 1 in a second here. Stranger Things Season 1, Episode episode 1, chapter 1, the last thing I watched was, one of the last things I watched was American Horror Story episode 1, which is pretty good until the ending, but then it got a little silly. Like, the way the guy tries to prank the girl and some weird face appears, like, I almost didn't want it to be too supernatural or contrived like that. The vanishing of Will Byers, and it wasn't there at all, but I know it's just the first episode, but so I don't know really even what this is about. I almost get the vibe it's like some sort of pulp, like a comic book type pulp story from the past. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it'll be like these folktale type of things. So one episode they'll discover aliens, or one episode they'll, things like that. Where I don't think it'll be an anthology series, but it'll be all these kind of supernatural things that they encounter. Right, they'll encounter aliens and ghosts and different things every episode. So almost like paranormal hunters, almost like Scooby-Doo, the way that they would, deal with similar subjects, but kind of like that at least. I almost want to hear this again because I feel like I don't want to have to talk too quietly either now. We go from having to project my voice too much to now having to be like a bit too quiet. So maybe I'll have to stop somewhere along the way and I'll have to test it again. I feel bad doing this, but this is like, now we're in the big leagues. Forget about all these other formats that I'm just sort of introducing at a surface level. Now it's like I want to watch Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead and something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to be legit now. I'll watch the Harry Potter thing next month. So maybe I should just watch something on YouTube, though, just to be safe, because fuck's sake, like, I'm even saying we're trying to take it seriously now, but fine, I'll relent one more time, and I'll save this for tomorrow, just because I'm worried about the audio. So we're doing this solely to test the audio. So like right now, I'm going to take off the thing. I'm taking off the lavalier thing from my shirt. So where would I have to be that would actually be good? And the answer is I have no idea. Like, I guess I can hold it. I'm holding it with one hand, as if that really matters. So it's not like rubbing against my shirt, assuming that's even a bad thing. Like, that's the whole point of it. But no, these things are like way too sensitive. It's insane. Like, it's pretty far away, and it's picking up the car sound pretty much, too much. And I don't know how to affect the settings on the iPhone for it. Like, it's kind of just, it is working, because it would, it sounds different at least than it would if I just recorded normally from the phone itself. This could almost be one way of doing it, just like you hold it in one hand, if that makes it any better. So I'm like trying to move it farther and farther away and keep testing that. So we will do that tomorrow. I will do strange things. But just for the sake of testing this, I think it's okay to, there's gotta be someone to put it like in the car on something, right in like the little, there's gotta be some place to put it that's gonna be good, right, where it would sound consistently good or something like that. Because it's not like I'm worried about the audio competing with it, because I have my headphone in anyway. That was one of the main transformative things I did early on, where I needed that because you could hear the audio of the show in the background. What's funny about this is, again, my commentary at times at least can be more insightful or whatever than other people, but more in-depth analysis, whatever. But it's because I don't do face cam, it's because the audio quality is not good, or it's because I don't show the video, I don't show what I'm watching, so therefore that makes it bad somehow. Yeah, I was thinking I'll put this in an air vent, and if I can do that, because this wire is pretty fucking long, so. It seemed to work at that angle because it'd have to be facing the other way the whip is. This is amazing though. How can it be this fucking sensitive? It would have to be something to do with the settings of your actual thing that you're recording on that you have to adjust, but or maybe my voice has just been sort of worn out by doing this. Like it's way more, you know what I mean? problem because you it shouldn't be a problem because of the simple fact that if it's clipped to your body, it's going to be close to you. So you know what I mean? Like if you yell, it shouldn't be so much because of the phone itself that it maxes it out in a way that you can't lower it or something, right? Like some other app on here. It's amazing how fucking convoluted and difficult this is. I think I'm going to go with this and just run with it because I'm not going to order another mic and wait for it. Maybe if I find it playing around in the store. But this seems to be generally okay. It's just kind of too loud, or again, it has to be a position. I guess. Okay, even as I was doing it there, it canceled out for some reason. So let me see now how this will sound. It keeps cutting certain parts off, so I don't know how to fix that. Like, it just won't actually work. So let me see. Let me listen back. So it could either be the fact that like I'm too loud, or it could be like when it starts to move. So I'll have to see if what happens with it. So I went from trying to do it on my shirt. I probably won't even upload any of this. I went from trying to do it on my shirt to doing it on like my lap to now I'm doing it like on a dash cam thing. Okay, so I'll test this once again as I'm watching the Darrell Brooks trial a little bit. So something keeps happening where it keeps getting cut off. And I don't know if that's because it's too loud or because it's moving or shaking because of the driving. But this is on my dash cam, so I'll try to see if this actually works. And so I'm listening to some random part of the Darrell Brooks trial. I'm a little disappointed how hard this is to get to work. There's really nothing I can do. I'll have to talk kind of in a quieter voice, and that's pretty much it. So it shouldn't move it that much. Disregard the attempt to testify. He's trying to testify with an objection because I was there, and that's not true. Like, even if you want to testify like that, you have to do it in a more credible, reasonable way. Some of these exhibits that they play are like super, super long too. You know, my thing is sort of shaking on that. Man, I feel like it's not going to work at all, so I just give up. This is how it's meant to be. It's supposed to be close to you. It's supposed to be moving, or it'll move if you move. Like, why is it so finicky and sensitive? I don't get it. So I'll listen back to this once more when I get home, and I'll make the final verdict. So a lot of this I might not even upload. I'll just start with tomorrow's episode where I watch American Horror Story, assuming this even works. So I tried it on my chest and stuff, and it's way too loud. So now I'm trying it on this, and if it doesn't work here, then I guess I can put it even somewhere else, on the other side of the car or something. So they give like one redirect, but they don't let you redirect back, right, sometimes. I don't get what the whole thing is where it's considered defense witness, though. Like, it's implied that, oh, it's favorable to you, but in a case like this, nobody is favorable to you, right? Like, how they're witnesses that you may want to call, right, but they're not necessarily. This case is just so stupid, it's hard to explain. Like in the Jodi Arias trial, she had like a psychiatrist that gave her a book as a gift or something, right? So that, or whatever, that at least makes sense that you would be, that could be seen as favorable, but, right, there's almost nothing favorable about this trial. So you would almost just rather not call any witnesses at all and just say, fuck it, I'm screwed because Darrell Brooks is a clown. Trial enters third day, so you're hearing from some of the law enforcement here. You get this female cop coming up next. It's weird to see a recess where he's not running his mouth going into it. I wonder, maybe he starts doing that later on in the trial as he gets more desperate, as he realizes nothing is really doing him any good. But yeah, this is pretty frustrating to get this thing to actually work, and so I don't know how I don't know how to do it at all. I was holding it, it wouldn't work. And it even somehow ended and canceled my phone's recording altogether. The wire must have hit something. Like, it's a very scuffed thing, but it makes it look kind of natural, though, in a way, because now that it's attached to that, it doesn't look weird, like, to whatever extent it might, you know, if you have it on your body. So this is my last attempt to try to get it to work. So I'm talking in sort of a more lower tone of voice, and so it should be almost like an ASMR thing. I'm almost trying to whisper in a way, and it shouldn't be that bad because it's pretty fucking far away, so I don't understand why it would be that loud. The only other thing I could do, I guess, is I could put it on the other side of the car, right? You can't really put it that much farther away, so I'd have to just put it like in my fucking trunk or something, and it'll still be too loud. I almost want to listen to part of it here as we go, but that's too annoying to do. I'll just wait till I get home and listen. So if this one doesn't work, then I next to give up, because I can't really talk much quieter than this, or I'm going to naturally go up and down a little bit with my volume in terms of you know, you're always going to get sort of, you're going to get invested in what you're doing, and then I'll say, oh, that character's a dumb bitch, or look at Livia Soprano as the GOAT, and she's 10,000 character points, and all this kind of stuff. I would get all excited, and, you know, that's one of those great moments of immersion for me, where, you know, that shows you I'm really getting into the series. Even if I'm being critical of it, there are a few moments there that are actually seminal moments of my, you know, what I like about critiquing stuff or analyzing it. Episode 5, you know, this is all season 1. Episode 5, I'm pretty sure it was 5, it could have been 4, I forget now. But it's where he goes and fights that other mafioso, right, who had taken out 13 of them. I don't know if he, like, snitched on, he must have. He snitched on them, and so he put 13 of them away, or he killed some of them, or something like that, but that's such a game theory moment where you're able to basically look at it from a perspective that Chris should have come in at the end and saved him, and they were even setting up for that with him being on the phone with him the whole time, and so he could have shown up even without his permission. Tony's telling him, don't come, and then he comes and he saves him at the end, right? Instead, he just kills the guy on his own. Like, that's not very satisfying. You might think that would have been too much character development that early on, but the way the episode was written almost begs for that, right? That would have been perfect. You might think, oh, it's a cliche, but it would have been good because it shows you how capable that character was, right? And so it would sort of immortalize that encounter instead of just, oh, it just ends just because it does. Like, this big fat motherfucker, Tony, just sneaks up on the guy, and it's like, it's no big deal, but it is a big deal, like... You know, like, it didn't really make sense, or it didn't seem like consistent with game theory and stuff like that. Or even the fact that he gets plot armor there too. He saw the little girl, so he didn't kill him, like, so he had him beat. So it shows you he's so capable that it took that much to beat him. He had to throw you a bone by not killing you when he could have, when he's one step ahead of you, even though you discovered him by pure luck at the gas station. And then you also have to get it the other way, like, then Chris has to come to save you too, right? That would show you what a truly terrifying guy is like in this world. I don't know, like, that episode was still really good, but that would have made it really perfect. That would have been an A+ episode if they just made that change. Chris comes in and saves him because he gets outmaneuvered by this guy again, because he's just that scary and that capable. So this is like a legend of the mafia world. Like, who do you think you're dealing with, right? This dude is a GOAT. No matter how much Tony thinks he's hard, you know, this guy is something else. He was even telling Chris, you know, you can't handle this guy. But then he would realize, oh, I can't handle him either. So he'd be on the ground talking shit, and the guy would admit who he is. Like, I guess that makes 14. Right, or something. He'd be taunting him. I came up with like a whole scenario to do with it, and it makes perfect sense. It just, well, even like my other plot armor consideration with you know, sometimes I'll get in that victim blamer mode, like talking shit, like, yeah, just kill him, just fucking kill him. I was even saying, I think I was saying that in episode 5, like, shoot him, what the fuck are you waiting for, shoot him, and like, you know it's not going to happen, because otherwise the series would be over. Although I guess maybe it could, like, oh, it's The Sopranos, so now it'll be about the rest of the family. Even the title of the show is written like a sitcom would be written, right? Which in some ways it does try to play into that, like as a comedy, but that's the kind of stuff I like least about it. All the stuff at home and just, I get that it's trying to endear you to the characters, but you need more of those kind of epic moments. I'm not saying every episode has to be like that, but it's a case where, you know, it was getting caught up in all these kind of weird things that you're doing. Like, oh, the music business, and oh, the whatever, other kind of minutia that's not really relevant or something that you should be worried about. So, we're just listening to static actually here. Where's the female cop? There was like a female cop that, she said a 15-minute break, but this seems like way longer than that. I'm kind of skipping through too. But this is some other male cop. "49 patients. Military time, 1735. Okay, let's look at his cross-examination of this guy. About a man with a knife, which I think was a false story. I think that was like a false report. Nobody actually had a knife. It was like a misstatement by some other witness. Some guy mentioned that, oh, like a week ago I got stabbed by a knife, but he thought he meant that somebody currently had a knife. Right? They kind of got lost in translation of the report or something, like a game of telephone. Officer Wagner, and then there's Officer Guth, who everybody has a good time saying his name. Goof. Yeah, that would be a fluid thing, right? You wouldn't always have the same ambulance all the time. That's a very specific question. He was sort of self-telling that, oh, I'm going to do an asked and answered, but it's phrased differently, I promise. Like, he's sort of giving too much commentary. Which sometimes you do that on purpose just to plant seeds in the mind of the thing. And the mind of the jury. Even if it gets overruled, they still think that way. Right, so you can't let them get away with too many objections like that. Even if they're overruled, you're kind of making statements. A hot wash? Why is it called that? Let's consult the Urban Dictionary. I can think of another explanation for what that means. He responded, but did he personally go there himself, or he was just like calling the shots? Could have asked, like, when did you arrive to the scene, first of all? I'm not even giving a timestamp for this, I don't even care. Yeah, it's surprising that Brooks didn't get killed or shot in doing this. Right, that he's unharmed and he somehow got away. Right, he would just be shot as he's trying to run people over. The shots must have been fired by an officer at him. That's sort of speculation. That there were shots fired, so somebody got shot and was somebody injured. Like, that is a bit of a leap in question that you almost shouldn't be allowed to ask, because he didn't give the proper foundation for it. But ambulance 51, but then you claim to not know, you can impugn him. He should know who was on ambulance 51 if he... Or you could turn the jury against him and say, isn't it true that you could have saved some of their lives if you had acted quicker? That's always a dirty trick, but it kind of works sometimes. Like, even though you're still the culprit, or whatever, your client is still the culprit, you made them look bad. Like, technically, as many people wouldn't have died if you did this better, or if you acted faster. Brooks's demeanor doesn't really match somebody who would do this sort of thing, which stands to the reason that he's premeditated. At times he's a clown like that and he gets mad, but it seems more like it was just a fit of rage. Not that that excuses it, but it's hard to argue premeditation, but it's more just like it's deliberate. As he's doing it, he makes the choice to continue doing it, so then that makes it seem, intentional. If it's a fit of rage and he just ran over one person, that would be one thing, but power outage, always a convenient plot device sort of thing. It's a blackout, so you couldn't see what time it was or something. Yeah, why would the power have been related to... So it had nothing to do with the driver. So the power went out unrelated to the incident. So that makes Brooks look good. That, at least I didn't cause the power outage. This is actually not a bad cross-examination by him. It's not really proving anything groundbreaking. Or sometimes people are too hard on him too, like, even if he was the best lawyer ever, which he's obviously not, what could you have really done with this case? This case is obviously shitty, so you wouldn't have been able to do anything. You could be the best lawyer ever, and you would still get destroyed. Dark outside, but there was darkness within the person who committed this crime. Get all poetic on him. Yeah, they don't question how fast. Yeah, you always, motto of the month is get there quick. So you don't question why it is, you just say it is. That's a good word, triage. Motor vehicle versus pedestrian, but the motor vehicle, like, we need to call the motor vehicle to the stand. If it's motor vehicle versus pedestrian, we need to call the pedestrians who are dead and channel them in ghost form, and we need to call the car to the stand, because anybody who's not a living, breathing person cannot make a claim. Like the state of Wisconsin needs to come up on the stand along with the motor vehicle. This guy's being pretty nice to him. Like, some of them are a little. Okay, so I'll try this thing again with the mic. So we finally got a lapel mic to sort of work, but then now it was like being way too loud. So now I'm holding it, but what I did is I tried to turn down the headphone volume, quote unquote, but it still seems way too loud. But I don't know if that counts. Like, there's no setting to actually adjust it on iPhone itself, so I'll have to listen back to some of this. There's no way to actually lower it or change the settings on the iPhone itself for the attached devices. So you would think maybe the slider on the side that's the normal volume, which kind of recognizes this as a headphone, would work that way. So I'll have to listen back to this. I can try it at sort of different angles and further away. The only other option I had is like put it on the other side of the car, because it's so fucking loud that I can't do anything about it otherwise. Or use like some other program to try to record, because this voice notes thing doesn't have much customization to it. But I have to find some other part of the car. So I'll use this to test both theories. Number one is like I lowered the volume on the headphones, quote unquote, which should count as the mic. So that may lower the volume of what the mic is capturing. But based on what I'm seeing, it looks like way too loud anyway. Like it's a constant high pitch of the thing. But like the bars are pretty high with what it's showing the audio picking up. That I'm not entirely sure, but what you do have is the ability to basically you have the ability to basically see that this is a generally okay setup. I don't know if it's the mic itself. I don't know why it would really be the phone that could be the issue. If it is, like, something about this is just strange, that it's not only super loud, but then it sometimes cuts off. Like it's peaking so hard that it actually cuts off, and you know, it's not even audible. Like it's just I don't know what you call that besides peaking, right? So it's going so high that it doesn't even process the audio, it just breaks it, right? So you can't even hear it. So that's unacceptable too, but it also shouldn't be this much of a problem. If this is on the lowest setting, I guess the way you could test it is you could raise it and then raised up all the way. So assuming that affects it, which it really doesn't seem like it does affect it, then it would be a lot louder now. And so the only other option is to put it somewhere else further on the other side. So let me try that. So now it's on the other side of the car completely, and based on how it was picking up my voice before, you would think it'd still be pretty loud. I mean, I put it on like the dash cam wire and stuff, and it was still pretty loud, which is a reasonable distance away. Like again, this is something you're meant to wear on your lapel, basically on your shirt, on your, you know, collar basically. And so you end up in a position where it's unbelievable that it would be that big of an issue. Or now it does seem a bit lower though. So maybe this is like the right sort of position for it. Although it's not really attached to anything, it is still a reasonable distance away, and it's, I don't know why the hum is so much less now. Maybe the act of me holding it causes that, like, or no, that was because I was stopped in the car. Obviously, I was stopped at like a stop light, so that kind of obscures it. So yeah, we'll have to listen back to this, so let's just do it. I don't know what other thing I could do, like just... We tried it on the lowered setting. We tried it at a further distance now. So we pretty much have done everything I can do. I liked that for a while there. I was doing like the short horror film binge, but so many of them are kind of garbage, or they're just like one-off, one-trick gimmicks to the extent that you don't really like them, or you know, like there's no depth to it beyond just that. You know, I like how deeply I get into them or analyze them and things like that. Like if you're gonna do it all the way. You're not just watching as idle entertainment. You're actually getting invested in whatever, so that you know you can look at that as anything in life. Like if you do that long enough, or if you do something like passionately enough, you with enough interest, any random thing you do, then it becomes from just something idle to something like a career or whatever, something noteworthy. Which is why I don't like the whole culture of certain like things that you see in media and social media. Like what it does is it makes it seem like, oh, look how authentic this thing is, but it's probably not. They probably carefully prepared it, and they planned it out, and they wrote a script, and it'll seem authentic, but it's just carefully, perfectly curated, right, to get that outcome. So you shouldn't reward it for that. You can reward it for ability, like, okay, it was really good, or something, but not that it was, you know, oh, look how genuine, wholesome, sincere, or something like that. It's obviously just all performative, right? Whenever somebody's in front of a camera, you're doing a show, you're doing something, you know how it's going to be perceived. So most people have that self-awareness to, you know, understand, okay, this is how it's going to be perceived, so we're going to try to portray it in a certain way, in a favorable way, right? So that definitely has impact. And then you have, you know, this sort of stigmatization of thought in general in society. Like if somebody, I don't know, everything has to be reduced to a very banal structure within either social contrivance or something, so it seems reactionary, initial. So sort of objectively negative things are glorified just for a overextended half-mast state because there's so many people, so that's the way it would be best reduced compared to the, some sort of infinite objective mind basis or anything else. And even then, most thought is done in a reactionary functional way, like for some zero-sum end, zero-sum need, or something like that, in a way that's part of like a cycle that never ends. Like, you'll be on one side of an issue, they'll be on the other side, so it just goes back and forth. There's no like absolute or no real answer provided by that. It's just all it's just all reactionary, like, okay, this might be slightly better, slightly worse, which works on a functional level, but it's not really going to give you an objective basis of thought or something that really makes a big difference. So you'll always be trapped within this sort of false duality of one thing versus another, instead of just an objective standard that doesn't care, right, about any of that, just like a pure functional basis, a pure standard criteria, like what is good by a particular standard, right? You won't get caught up in groups or tribalism or identity or sort of namesakes or anything like that to do with sides. You'll instead be able to do it on the basis of what do you call it? It's just the actual practice. You measure, okay, this is the flaws of the practice, this is what's good about it. It shouldn't be something that is so hard to figure out, but people sort of are trained to associate things like that. Like, you'll associate, okay, this group or this person is positive or negative in this way, but it's just, it could just be a means to an end. So it's more so, again, don't vote for people, vote for policies. That's what the public should get into, like, vote for the policy itself. Do you agree with the border being open and letting millions of people in with no proper process, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on? If you just look at squarely in terms of the policy, right, nobody's ever really agreed with that or done that. Other presidents of both parties haven't done that. So you have this ability to say that if you just voted on the policy, your opinion might be different. Then you'll be like, oh no, but we got to play into this false duality and say somehow, border security is racist to try to control people, divide and conquer sort of thing, us against them with that. Let me try to listen back maybe to some of this here. Now, I've lowered it also in addition to it being further away, but I'm not seeing really the feedback on that. Like, it seems to be high and peaking no matter what. So I'll listen back now. Okay, so now it's as far on the other side of the car as possible. And so it's like in the little, I don't know, it's like on the other door of the passenger side. And to me, it's unbelievable that it would be this loud. Like, it's more so probably to do with the movement of it, that if you're using it while moving, which I'm sure people do all the time with lapel mics, and that's probably part of the point. But if people do that, then you feel like, even driving in the car, that's kind of what these are meant for, like, it's supposed to be stuck to your shirt. I'm actually baffled as to how. There's probably something to do with the integration of the iPhone. Like, it doesn't know how to change the volume, so it just does it at a max level or something that you can't control. But even then, like, it shouldn't be this bad if it's so far away and stuff. But if it doesn't work here, again, you have to question the movement of it. That, it's probably shaking and wobbling, and so therefore said it poses a problem because you have Okay, so now I'll just do a regular session on the iPhone again because this doesn't seem like it works. No matter how far I put it away, it's like the wobbling and everything like that fucks it all up. So I can't figure it out, so I don't know why it's so literally impossible, but I can still keep doing it like this. In fact, I don't even mind watching some of the big name series like this. I'll just do it, right? I don't care. The record will speak for itself of like what I'm saying, because clearly my commentary is going to be so good. So I'm uploading, this will be the first part that I actually upload, because a lot of the rest of the last recordings I've done have just been to try to test the mic. The mic itself seems fine, but because of the wobbling that happens in the car, it somehow fucks it up and it keeps cutting off parts of what I'm saying. So what you have is a few topics I'll discuss, like rule by omission, which I discussed earlier, but sort of deferring to invisible authority, like people feel more comfortable doing that than actually what is in front of them. So it's like, you can imagine that anybody has idiosyncrasies, right? Every human being has idiosyncrasies and flaws and vices and etc. But they'll defer to this initial basis, like where, oh, well, of course, they're in front of the camera, so they're going to be fake or put on a, performance. So now it becomes about it's like a contest of contrivance. Who can put on the best performance in front of the camera and sort of fool people instead of realizing, oh, they're all just acting. It's all just fake. Nobody's really like that. And so why do we care? Right? And let's just judge it on something else more inherent that we can be aware of. Like, we know everybody has flaws. We know everybody has idiosyncrasies. We know everybody has vices and human nature, etc., objective basis. So rather than just seeing it that way, you would specify it and say, well, this person put on a little better performance, this person acted a little better in some ways, like, who puts on the best performance, not the acknowledgement that everything is just a performance. So, you can be a slave to sort of this false duality. It's not a flaw of the process or the tendency or human nature or something like that. It's a fault of not overcompensating for it well enough, right, like that. So that's one issue, again, deferring to invisible authority and sort of how fake and performative certain things are, that everybody innately knows this and realizes this, but you'll kind of defer to it on a certain level of, you'll value all these things. It's like these pseudo-psychology things that I find so amusing as somebody who is so, experienced in psychology too. But just, you don't even need to be, like, just on a base level, like, this person who's suspected of a crime is too calm. That means they did it, because only a killer would be that calm. But also, they're panicking. That means they're the killer, because only a killer would panic. Like, you see how it's like this, mirror of the self, like observer. It says more about the observer than what is observed. Like, so no matter what they do, it tells you something, right? You're trying to say, somebody makes eye contact. That means they're genuine. But then that doesn't actually mean that at all. Like, somebody could look you right in the eye and lie, like people do all the time, and then somebody could not look at you and tell the truth. Like, there could be various reasons why they do that. So I love that that's taken as an absolute standard that you would behave that way. It's like, you're looking at things in too narrow of a way with no deeper interpretation. Everything is just initial surface level. It couldn't just be put on as an act. It couldn't just be, everything is taken as an absolute on the most basic, superficial level. So all you have to do then is dress it up. So you could be the worst person ever, but if you just appear good on the surface, there you go. Or vice versa. You could be the best person ever, but if you don't care about performative aspects, then you look bad on the surface. So that's all that matters to people. And it makes sense to a certain degree, but it's sort of a byproduct of overextension, that there's too many people, so everything becomes overextended like that. Like, people don't have the time or the will to sort of be puzzled or look into all this. So you have, you know what I mean? Like, people would rather have a false certainty or an absolute judgment or something like that than actually having any self-awareness to realize the nature of a process, a larger process, any sort of nuance. Or, again, you'd rather have false certainty or false absolute than uncertainty. And the reason why is because you have, it's just all performative. Like, you're all trying to, that's more important, right? It doesn't matter. This is why religion works so well on people. Like, you'd rather have all the answers, right? How convenient is that? How perfect is that? Right? And that's even people's defense of it. How can you just say everything came out of nowhere? But that is what you're doing anyway, right? Like, God came out of nowhere and then created everything out of nowhere. Just, the supernatural being somehow the predicate there. That doesn't exactly make sense or answer anything. But you would say, well, you'd rather defer to that absolute of saying, the absolute is, okay, we have all the answers, we know everything. That makes you more comfortable than if you are willing to be puzzled and say, no, you don't know everything, you don't know anything. You're just an ignorant human being who knows slightly more than animals because you have slightly greater self-awareness, etc. And so if you do it like that, it's a great way to test something too, like, and you see what it leads to in society. You would rather have a liar who acts all confident than somebody who is genuine, but as a result asks a lot of questions or, pervades uncertainty, because, again, nobody is going to have all the answers or, a certain healthy amount of curiosity, and uncertainty is good. Again, the willingness to be puzzled, the willingness not to just make brash, actions and reactions. So that sort of standard is strange that you wouldn't have some sort of as like this sort of also society obsession with speed. Like, you'd rather do something quicker and get it over with, but then you'll make mistakes and you'll fail to measure the process. Like, you'll regret later the consequences of what you do, and you'll regret later the consequences of what you do, and also the the measure behind it. Like, oh, I you weren't thinking, so you were in a hurry to just get it over with, and that would have been your priority. Like, let's just go get through it, etc. But then, right, you're trying to just breeze through this half-mass process, get to the next thing in a zero-sum way, but you're never thinking about, what is actually your measure or your priority or preference behind it. It's just a false absolute, assumed intent, zero-sum longevity process, etc., half-mass hedonism. So because of that, you end up in a situation where again, maybe the answer is slow down a little bit, think about why you're doing what you're doing instead of just what you're doing, and also whether you can do it more efficiently, or again, what it leads to is you take the nature of the process as absolute and unquestionable, so now it's just a matter of how well you do it, but you never actually question or define the measure, like why you're doing it, or what your preferences are, or what you actually want, or what your standards actually are. And so now, also, whether you can like change the process, like if you change the process or improve it or something like that, you just mindlessly take it as an absolute, and it's sort of like this desensitized notion, like everything has already been thought of, or everybody's already done everything before, or right, everything is the way that it is because that's the way it should be, kind of like that. So you just take everything for granted as an absolute. So you have this stance of it's just sort of arbitrary. And okay, what's another good topic here? So I was gonna watch that today. I even planned on it, but I was relying on the lapel mic, so I might just say fuck it and just use it like this. This is okay, but I have to raise my voice too much, and it's a little bit too loud too. The background sounds a little bit too loud. But this has worked generally well. It's at least a little better than the Sony recorder, and it's at least a little bit better than the lapel mic, because that's fucking up. Maybe it's not a fault of the mic itself per se, but right, it's a case of where you're basically able to see that there's no easy way to get this to work. And yeah, I love how that would be a disqualifying factor. Like, you can't move. There's too much movement, like in the car. But what if you want to use that in a movie scene? This is what they're sometimes used for. You're using it in a movie scene in a car when you're moving, or you're walking around in a scene with it on your collar. Like, why should that fuck up the audio if, you're meant to move with it? You're not just going to stand in place the whole time. That's part of the point of it. You conceal the mic, right? And then you obviously, you move around and you're talking and it's picking it up or something. Although what I don't get with that is how come it wouldn't like double over? Like, your mic will pick up their sound and their mic will pick up your sound, like if it's two people having a conversation. But I guess they could just cut that part out, or it's somehow designed in such a way to not do that. But I don't know, like it'd be much more exact then. Don't you miss the old days, like in black and white films, where it would just be like one mic overall? Like, obviously. And I like the implication of that too with silent films. Like, it was easier to have a camera that worked at that time in history. They could pick up all the visuals than it was to have simply a recorder. You would think that'd be the easier part to do, right? I can't remember exactly the reasoning why it was so difficult to combine the two, Like, how hard is it to just simply have a microphone that records or transmits audio? That should be much easier than the visual of it, right? So, or that's like the ultimate, is like a frame-by-frame picture. So it'll be a picture, then like a box of text to explain something. So it's neither full motion video nor audio, in one. It's like Nosferatu or something like that. Oh, it's so scary. And don't you love the part where the speech bubble comes up and jump scares you, basically? Right, that sort of undercuts it a little bit. There was one like that, and then there was one that was actually, I think, with proper audio, or maybe not. But no, that would have been still considered impressive and revolutionary for the time if you had just the images back to back, because even that would have been new at the time. It'll be like an image, then a text, then an image, then a text. That's truly the most terrifying form of ghosting, like getting ghosted while you're watching a silent film. It's a horror movie, so the ghosting is just that there's no text in it, so now you're left with just a little screenshot images, basically. Right, it'll literally be like a PowerPoint presentation, which, that is a little bit lower caliber even than what you'd expect. Like, at least if you get full motion video and you occasionally cut away to have like a box of text, that's one thing. But to have it where you actually have to do that, where it cuts away from a still image. It'll be a still image, then text, then still image, then text. That makes it more comical. So, what else do we have here? I'm just kind of bummed out because I didn't get to use that on the context of the mic, the lapel mic and everything. So now you'd basically be able to, I'll do that next time then, and I'll do it in such a way that I can, I'll just do it like this, because nothing else seems to be working very well. I could try like a different mic just altogether, but again, it's amazing that the movement would bother that much. You might think, oh, you're not meant to do it while driving a car, but that's exactly what it would be for, something like that, where you're moving, walking around, jogging, doing like a vlog like that. I thought that's the whole point of lapel mics overall, is that you have, because every time I would stop at like a light or a stop sign, it would improve the audio dramatically, or it would stop cutting parts of it out like that, where you have, that's the main issue. It's not even about it being so loud or sensitive, although it is, and peaking and clipping and stuff like that. It's about the fact that it's not actually, the fact that somehow the movement is fucking it up, like, where it keeps cutting off because of that. I don't think it was so much because of the volume. It would happen whenever I'm driving, and then whenever I would stop, it would be fine, basically.